What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video in the series. Today we will be taking a look at the Hiya Toys Exquisite Basic Mothra from Godzilla King of the Monsters. What you see here is more or less what you get in the box. You do get a stand with the figure. It's not the stand you see here. It's going to be the same type of stand that Rodan came with. We will get into that later on. I just wanted to showcase here that you are able to get Mothra standing on her legs. Figure isn't designed for this. It will topple over if you don't find the exact center of gravity on this figure. And the joints kind of give out, the leg joints, kind of give out after a while. Again, figure's not really designed to be on its legs. It's designed to be on the stand. I just wanted to showcase that it is possible, and here's more or less how you're gonna have the figure if you decide to try and do this. Please don't fall, please don't fall. Ah! In this series, we're going to be taking a look at every single Hiya Exquisite Basic figure in the Godzilla line. Every repaint, reissue, 2.0, whatever they put out, we're going to be taking a look at them all in release order. Let's get started. So starting with sculpt and detail, let's just get the star of the show out of the way right now. These wings are what you're getting this figure for. The paint applications speak for themselves, but right now what I really want to talk about is, again, the sculpt. The sculpt of the wings has this amazing texture to them, sculpted in. It's not as rough and coarse as what they did with that original GVK Kong. It's very subtle on the wings here. It looks very nice. From the base of the wings, you have all this nice texturing. Almost looks like leaves as it gradually fades out into a finer texture going down to the base of the wing here. These textured almost veins, these are subtly sculpted in. There's raised elements up here where this eye is supposed to be. There's a very subtle ridge. You can see this easier on the smaller portion of the wing here. There's this vein here that's clearly sculpted in. There's similar ridges like this all over the wing, the main wing, and the small wing. It's very nice. Taking a look now at what we can of the body and legs, the sculpted detail is incredibly impressive for how small some of these pieces are. I mean, they managed to sculpt little spikes here at the tip of the arms. Even on the itty-bitty ones, there's tiny little sculpted claws, or teeth on the claws, I should say. There are sculpted elbows that separate the segments of the arms. This is going to apply for the small front arms as well. This is going to apply to the back legs as well, with very impressive sculpted segments going up and down the leg. The thorax and abdomen also have very nice segments sculpted into them, and this is going to go all the way down to the tip of the moth asshole. In terms of the body sculpt, the head and antenna are definitely the standout sculpts here. I mean, just the fact that they were able to sculpt in a face on something so tiny it baffles me how they're able to do this every time. Speaking of baffling me, let's go ahead and turn our attention now towards the paint. And first thing that stands out to me, just while we're taking a look at the body and head, are going to be, once again, the Hiya eyes. How the hell they were able to get such a vibrant blue on something so tiny and outline it with black. I don't know how they do it. Look at that. Oh, good heavens. Oh my. That's a first. Pop that back on. Carrying on with the paint, let's talk about the body because it's going to be pretty straightforward. Everywhere but the head and antenna is going to be a very dark brown for the body, and then it's going to have a much lighter brown dry brushing on some of those details. It's very basic. You can tell it wasn't their top priority, but I'm willing to give that a pass because, again, what they really put all their efforts into is the thing you're going to notice the most when this is on your shelf, and that is going to be the wings. So many different layers of paint blended in with each other, layer on top of each other. Now, from the best that I can gather, I think the base of the wing, both wings, is going to be cast in this yellow that you see here. And then I think they just painted over with the reds here, followed by the dark brown, followed by the white patterns on top. I think that's how they achieved this. And then, of course, you have this very nice blue that fades in from the base at the hinge here, and then a white dry brushing on top of that. Again, could be mistaken. I think that's how they accomplished that. I only think that because at the hinge here, you can see a little yellow peeking through all that. But either way, however they did it, this looks amazing. I think my only nitpick with the paint is the fact that the white just kind of stops halfway here. Don't know why that is. I don't know if that's accurate to the film. That'd be very weird if the design actually just hard cuts off there. I mean, the vein textures carry through all the way to the end there. So I wonder if that was just a paint error. It's the same on both sides of the wings. But man, this figure with the wings splayed out in all its glory, this is definitely an eye catcher for sure. All right, moving on to articulation. This is going to be a pretty simple section as there isn't a terrible amount going on with this figure. The wings are going to be on hinges that peg into the body, so each segment can hinge down about that far, and they can hinge up all the way. And again, they're pegged into the body, so they can also rotate. I'd be careful with these hinges, guys. They seem sturdy, but because of how small they are, I just worry about shearing off those pegs. So I tend not to rotate them around too much. The small wings are fine. It's the larger wings that I worry about. Now, speaking of these hinges, this is really going to be my biggest issue with this figure. Because the wings are separated into two pieces with the smaller flap at the bottom there, and because both of them are on a hinge, because they're at an angle, as you can see, the larger wings are higher and closer into the body, and the smaller wings are kind of pushed out, and there goes the abdomen again. Because of that, rotating these wings around, you're really dealing with the hinges colliding in on themselves the most. And it just kind of leads to some frustrating situations. You can see this small wing right here doesn't want to bend down a ton because it's colliding in with the hinge on top of the wing. So to fix that, I'm going to have to just kind of shimmy here's the abdomen again. Shimmy the hinges around just enough to get clearance of the small wing. But then would have been nice if this was just one wing piece on a single hinge instead of these split wing thing. I know what they were going for here, but the way that they did these hinges just kind of makes it difficult to work with and get posed out, especially when you're trying to splay the wings out, because you got to splay the small wings out first and the big wings, but the big wings are always going to be at an angle because you can't hinge them to be flush with the small wings. It's not the biggest issue, but it would have been a simple fix. Also, in case I didn't mention it earlier, you're going to have the copyright information sculpted into the base of the large wings. It's going to be on both sides. There's the other one. Taking a closer look now at all the limbs, each arm has a single ball joint at the base of the body. You can't get too much movement in or out from them, and rotating them is pretty restricted due to the sculpt, but you can rotate the main arms down about that far, and you can get them rotated all the way up. Even these small inner arms are on ball joints, but again, the sculpt is pretty restrictive. You can really only kind of wiggle them around like that. The abdomen is going to have a ball joint. As you can see, it just popped off there. Again, due to the sculpt, very limited. You can get an ab crunch. It's a little hard to see, but you can get a very minor ab crunch, and you can straighten it out. And then the back legs are also on ball joints. You can get them rotated all the way up, all the way back, and slightly in and out. That said, realistically speaking, this is pretty much how you're going to have the limbs at any given moment, and that is because of the stand. Yes, let's talk about this stand now, shall we? All right, well, as you can see, this is the exact same stand as what they included with Rodan, with one difference. That's going to be the very top, the claw. It's functionally the exact same, just scaled down to match the body of Mothra. This stand is going to have the exact same problems that I discussed in the Rodan video, but to a much lesser degree, simply because Mothra weighs about as much as a paperclip. But it does also have its fair share of issues, which we'll get into here. So to attach this stand, again, it's a very small claw. It's going to go around the abdomen. the waist there of Mothra. You just kind of slide it in. You have to get it positioned right around the wings, and you just clip it together as best you can and hope for the best. And as you're seeing there, that's going to be primarily what we're going to discuss. So again, this time around, the stand functionally is a lot better than Rodan. I can mess around with it, I can pose it, and I'm not really worried of the figure toppling over in the same way as Rodan. But I am concerned about that, what just happened. So this claw piece, again, it just kind of clips around the waist of Mothra, but it's not sculpted to the waist of Mothra, like I discussed in the video with Rodan. And because this figure is so small, and the arm, or the claw, excuse me, is still so thick, that all you're really doing is balancing the figure on it and hoping for the best. If you try and move it around too much, something's gonna pop off. In this case, it was the claw arm, and also the abdomen popped off because the claw arm is putting too much friction right there on the joint. Hiya has created a very interesting conundrum here where the claw is so thick that it collides with those hinges. And so you have to kind of sleeve it up within the sculpt of the wings, and it's just frustrating to deal with. All right, time for some size comparisons. So it's going to have a very impressive wingspan of roughly 14 inches, roughly 2 inches long. And here we're going to have Mothra compared to Rodan, and damn, do these two look good together. If only it wasn't so infuriating to get them in any meaningful pose. Holy crap, I cannot tell you the amount of times Mothra's abdomen or the claw fell off trying to get Mothra in anything resembling a pose like this. And don't even get me started on what Rodan put me through just now. Holy crap. I'm very conflicted on this figure. On the one hand, this looks really cool. I mean, just look at this. This is a great looking Mothra. Those wings, fantastic. In fact, I forgot to mention earlier that the wings are even partially translucent. Look at that. Incredible. But this figure's kind of frustrating to deal with, and that frustration doesn't get you a lot. I don't know if this figure on its own commands a $50 price tag. Impressive figure, looks great, but it just needed more to justify that price point. Not a lot more either. Not a lot. Like a larva version of Mothra would have been really nice to see included with this as an accessory. I think a cool $60 to $70 for this bundled in the box with Rodan would have been just right. This is a good looking Mothra, but 50's kind of a tough pill to swallow for it on its own for what you're getting in the box. The stand sucks. It's better here because the figure's so light, but it needed a better connecting point to Mothra. I think, honestly, what I would have preferred is a solid body piece, no articulation in the abdomen. I think I would have preferred that here than an ab crunch that does fuck all and just causes problems when you're trying to get it on the stand. Because when you have it on the stand, you're not getting anything out of the abdomen anyway. And this figure isn't really designed to be put on all fours. So I don't know what that abdomen cut is really doing for you unless it had a different method of display. I think I would have rather have seen an attempt at articulation in the legs, more articulation in the legs and the arms, something at the elbow perhaps. In the future, though, I would love to see Hiya attempt a 2.0 of this design with bendable wings. I think that's the one thing that would really elevate this to a whole new level if they could get bendable wings somehow. I think if you're a King of the Monsters completionist or a diehard fan of Mothra, that this is a no-brainer. But honestly, if you're just looking to pick up the King of the Monsters Mothra, almost said Rodan, $50 price tag is a tough pill to swallow on this, when the NECA, from what I understand, does something very similar, very competitive with what with what Hiya is doing here. These are my thoughts on Mothra. I think that's going to wrap it up for this video. Thank you all for joining if you stuck around to the end. Tune in next time when we take a look at Godzilla. Again,